Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining the Wednesday Night Help Create live cast. My name is Chase Oliver. I am your host, and we have a great show today. Looking forward to discussing some great stuff with one of our guests, as well as pay some respects to a libertarian forefather who is sadly no longer with us. But first, I want to say Happy Independence Day for those of you who are celebrating in a couple days. You'll be shooting off fireworks, blowing up the sky, doing all that America rah rah stuff. I think this is leading right into Freedom Summer. It's my favorite time of year, Juneteenth, into Stonewall, into Independence Day. But what you might not know is, in addition to July 4th being Independence Day, it's also the fourth day of Disability Pride Month. And independence is a really apt thing to be talking about with my guest, who will be joining me in just a sec, because he is the president and founder of the Mobility Independence Foundation. And you can check them out at the MIF.org. A great friend of mine, a great friend to Liberty, and especially to those folks who are mobility disabled or have challenges with mobility, rather. And that is Thomas Queter. Thomas, thank you so much for coming on. You are a fantastic guest to have on this Independence Day because you very much talk about independence on a regular basis as the president of MIF. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Chase. And on the subject of independence, uh, when I was a child, I had to do physical therapy, and my therapist operated out of a living institution, a home. And when I would go, I would see people parked in the hallway, parked in the corner, not being tended to, not doing anything, over medicated, and I would ask those questions. And what my therapist said to me was find your independence or else you'll end up in an institution. What he was doing was recognizing that I recognized how terrible it is to be in a living institution, whether you're elderly or have a disability. These are not nice places. They have nice facades and they have pretty commercials, but they are not nice places to live, and your liberty is lost. Um, and that stuck with me. Find your independence. And that's probably one of the bigger reasons why I'm a libertarian. But we did some good work this last 2 years. We're about to launch a couple of designs for mobility products that can be built by just about anyone. Almost every community has the people with the skills and the ability to obtain the parts and materials to create something that's far better than what our systems are providing right now. And actually, I hate to derail into something that's sad, but I want to talk about gentleman and I talked to the other day, and I have these conversations a lot. Before we started, I told you I was not having the best day. Um, this gentleman had a motor vehicle accident and survived. He is now paralyzed. Before the accident, he owned a business that he started. He's a contractor. He had a home, he had a family. He had his independence. In order to facilitate qualifying for services to stay alive, he had to divest everything. His business is gone, his home is gone. Some of his family stole from him through this process. Some of his employees stole from him through this process. And after all of that, which in the long scheme of things you kind of expect, right? Humanity's not the best animal. But here he is on the other end of it. And our healthcare systems have given him a wheelchair that doesn't fit, a wheelchair that's going to cause more injury, a wheelchair that's going to make his unnecessary suffering even greater. And that's why I'm not feeling the best today, because when you do what I do and you reach out to people in these situations constantly, you run into people in these situations left and right. When we do these abilities expos where the tech is shown off and they're trying to do their sales pitch, you see people who are suffering horribly. and it's unnecessary, right? So that leads me to why I started the Mobility Independence Foundation. Society can do better. We have that choice. We don't have to be beholden to these systems that tell us what it is we need, which apparently is a wheelchair that leads to my death. That was the very beginning for me, um, or a wheelchair that causes the need for more surgery, or causes pressure sores and sepsis. Healthcare should be about caring about our health. And the documentary that we just launched, which instantly became an award-winning documentary, I'm very
Oh
proud.
yeah, I was going to bring that up. I was going to bring that, but feel free to toot your own horn, sir.
We actually have a former U.S. Surgeon General stating we do not have a healthcare system. We have a sick reimbursement system. And what does that tell us? That tells us that the incentives and the way things work are flipped on their end. They're not incentivized for you to get better, to go back to work, to keep your home, your wife and children, whatever it is that is life for you. You're not. They're not incentivized to help you do that. They're incentivized to keep you just alive enough to suffer just enough to make them more money.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the film, and we're going to do a show of the trailer here in just a second. The name of the film is Power Moves, and as you said, it is an award-winning film now.
I actually have to correct you there because we did change the title.
Oh, changing the title right on the fly. So what is the title now? Correct me, sir.
Well, interestingly, Shaquille O'Neal came out with his own documentary that released the same week called Power Moves. His is about shoes. So we went with The Power to Move. And actually, as the showing dates pop up, you can find them on thepowertomovefilm.com.
That's the power to move. That's the power to move film.com. Let me just pull that up so I can throw that on a banner here. So the power to move film.com. Ooh, that is an ugly looking banner. Let's make that a scrolling banner so it looks a little bit better. Oh, why will it not do it? The power to move film.com. That's what it's called. But we're gonna take a look at the trailer here. It just won an award at Freedom Fest, which, by the way, if you are a freedom-loving person, a liberty-loving person, it's a great gathering of lots of great people. Thomas was there this year, of course, showing off the film, talking about the Mobility Independence Foundation. But let's take a look at that trailer right now.
So for people who aren't in wheelchairs and have no idea what somebody goes through,
it's typically not the person who's disabled or their doctor who gets to decide what equipment they get. You end up with intermediaries. You have PTs, OTs, and then you have the provider, which is a middleman company.
Do we think that that's enough for you to be in that chair, then, even though you're the one with the issue? There's nothing that it's empowering the disabled community to go out and do it themselves, except right now the competition that's trying to enter, which would be MIF.
We're doing open source DME because of the length of time it takes for repairs. And instead of waiting 2 years for a wheelchair, it might be 2 months.
Thomas Queter from Mount Upton, who has a rare disease called osteogenesis imperfecta, is aiming to help those who have disabilities.
What I hear most often from people is, I'd like to be able to leave my home.
You don't find yourself going places because you worry about your equipment working or not working.
what we want to accomplish with open source designs is we want those designs to be out there. What you want to do with the chair will be up to you.
Why should I trust someone else's opinion of what I need in a wheelchair when I'm the one with the best understanding of my situation?
Disabled people are consistently let down by the systems that are supposed to support them.
I want to see a better world again. I want to see better people being better to each other.
We don't have to leave people behind. We have the means to figure out how to not only survive, but thrive.
I founded the Mobility Independence Foundation because the best way to help those with disabilities is to endow them with what they need to help and include themselves.
And
welcome to R&D with Matt, the Mobility Independence Foundation.
Sorry about that. There we go. And we're back. There we go. There's Thomas, and we're back. Great trailer. Again, ignore the ugliness of the banner, but it's the Power to Move film. There it goes. It fixed itself. The powertomovefilm.com right there if you want to check more about the movie. And if you want to learn more about the Mobility Independence Foundation, it's at the MIF.org. Great trailer. You know, we got some comments here. I did have to pop the comments off so it could show a little cranky. Can everybody hear that, by the way? I just wanted to make sure everybody could hear that trailer real well. But the doctor not having a say is genuinely criminal, says Building Fins Up. You're muted, but let me unmute you there, sir. Or if you can unmute yourself, there you go.
100%. So what happens, right? You are deemed medically in need of this device. And it can even be a very specific device already picked out between you and your doctor. And then you have to go through an approval process. For me in 2014, that was over 20 appointments on the taxpayer dime to get denied what I needed. And the final approval, of course, is your insurance company and that provider.
Yeah, that just sounds so backwards. When doctors are the ones who are supposed to be doing no harm, they make the commitment to their patients, and just so often have a middleman deciding your fate, as opposed to a doctor deciding what might be best for you in consultation with you, is terrible. And Connor says this is why government-controlled healthcare is absolutely terrifying. I would agree. Tell me if you agree with me, Thomas, that it is people who are disabled or who have greater healthcare challenges that'll be the first people thrown under the bus, metaphorically, by government-controlled healthcare. Would you tend to agree with that?
We've already been seeing that. When the ACA passed, that was actually a boon for insurance companies. People like myself, which that's what led to my situation, getting denied an adequate wheelchair. We're covered, but what are we covered for? Right? They left that part out. Yeah, my pre-existing condition is covered, but it's for a wheelchair that's going to hurt me and put me to bed, and that's not good.
Yeah, I think that's what happens when bureaucrats who don't understand what folks are going through are making those decisions, as opposed to folks like yourself who are actually coming up with those open source, independent solutions that I think are going to do a heck of a lot better job of helping to service the needs of folks. It's why I'm so excited to have you on the podcast, the live stream here, is because I'm really a fan of the work you've done, because you work your ass off. I'll be frank. You have a great team of people behind you. I'm going to show this off a little bit, the about of you guys, because you really have like let me get us back up here. You really have like the creme de la creme of a great board of people. Yourself, just kind of scrolling through here, by the way, some great photos. If folks want to check out this their webpage has lots of great stuff, but they're folks. Thomas, of course, being the president, Matthew Lacey, Jonathan Howe, I know is a great guy as your secretary, as part of your board of directors. You got Tom Pinkasov, great friend of mine. I know he is a hard worker. You got some other great folks, including Donna there, and Emily Goldberg. I know her. She's a fantastic hard worker. These are some great people that I've met across the country as I traveled around and ran for president, and ran into these people and was extremely impressed with them just in the work they were doing. So when I look at this team you've put together, you got some great advisors like Sam Robb and Casey Crow and Daniel Berman. These are some great people who really, all together, hey, there's another Chase, who really are great hard workers for those folks who are wanting independence and freedom from the challenges faced by government's incompetence to address the issues of mobility in this country. So if you want an organization worth supporting, you guys, I'm not going to stop tooting the horn of the MIF. I know, Thomas, you do it every day, all the time. That's your gig. But allow me to take a little bit of time to praise the work that y'all do. Every time I see you guys out at like a tabling, like at Freedom Fest or an appearance there, I was not there, but I got to see some footage and some pictures. You guys are always top of the line, one of the best looking booths, one of the best presenting groups out there. And so if you have some Liberty dollars to spare and you want to help out a great organization that's committed to the principles of liberty and independence for all people, go to the MIF. You go to the MIF.org and check them out, support them, and support folks like Thomas, who's doing the damn thing. Space Cowboy says, as an autistic person, the government has done nothing to help me. When we shell out God knows how many tax dollars to pay the government so they can, quote, help disabled people, unquote. Would you agree with that? Not just for the physically disabled, but for folks who are neurodivergent and others who might require assistance. They don't really get that from government.
Yeah, a disability is a disability. I don't like comparing. We all have our challenges. Some of us Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah.
But no, so the reality here is the most disgusting part of what we're addressing in healthcare is that we have a government that spends so much to continuously neglect its own people and hold them down. Right? We talk about safety nets like welfare, and in terms of disability, I can tell you that those safety nets are not beneath our feet. They're pressing down atop our heads. We have limited income. Well, actually, we're not allowed to have income often enough. The gentleman I was discussing earlier, he now has to pay $6,300 a month for insurance, but only gets $900 from the government. How does that work?
Yeah, it's basically a catch-22. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. If you go out and you work and you make money, then you don't qualify for any kind of assistance. And if you don't work, you qualify for the assistance, but you can't afford it. And that's a pretty terrible situation to be putting so many Americans, so many people into. And you got to believe that. Hey, we're getting near July 4th, and we're about to be shooting fireworks and celebrating how great America is all the time. And as star-spangled awesome as we are, we let far too many people fall through the cracks because we just think, hey, the government's going to handle that. The government will fix that. And I think what you and your organization does is a great job of waking people up to the fact that the government does a piss poor job at best with really terrible results and costs a lot of money, when if folks just like yourself and other, folks in the space could really innovate and help provide assistance for folks, you could help a lot more people for a lot less money. And so this is why I'm so excited to have you on, because you're a great truth teller about that. And, I'm sure you have a million examples of how bad government is.
Well, in terms of libertarianism and disability welfare, right? We tend to believe that we have a right to life and property, many other rights too, but those are two big ones if you're libertarian. When you have a disability and you're beholden to these systems, you are often choosing between having a life or having property. Where in the Constitution or any other document does it ever say that you have to choose?
Yeah, and I think our government basically forces that choice on way too many people. And of course, that's what government is a lot of the time. It's just force and trying to force their way. And that's where you have folks falling through the cracks. I think Connor says it right. The private sector is way more effective at helping the disabled than the government. Trust me when I say that. And Thomas, I'm sure you can speak to that just a little bit.
As long as we're not talking about cronyism, because that's a big problem in this industry. So the private sector combined with charity. Right? Charity is a libertarian principle, and some of us forget that, and it makes me angry. Charity is how we pick up the pieces of what we are currently brainwashed into thinking only the government can do. When someone needs help, we need to be there to help them. And so this is why I have transitioned out of libertarian politics into libertarian action, right? Luigi Mangione chose violence, and I chose open hardware.
Yeah. And I think yours is certainly the more effective path, both short-term and long-term to take. And for me, when we look at the solutions that are being provided by government, they're just not very effective. And when you look at the private sector, that doesn't mean just for-profit capitalism. That also means charity and nonprofit organizations that can really fill in the gap, especially if we weren't being taxed so much. Like if we didn't have a state that was so large and taking so much out of our wallets, a lot more people would be more inclined. We're already the most charitable nation, like by a lot, but we could be a lot more charitable and actually work towards a lot more mutual aid and voluntarism if we just had a lot more freedom from government. And I think, if we could get a little bit more reduction of the state, you would see a lot more support for organizations like yours, because people would have the freedom to be able to support great folks who are doing great work.
So there is another interesting thing that's a benefit to our movement. The infrastructure to do all of this already exists. From nonprofits to small businesses that are capable of doing the work, to your loved ones and your neighbors, your children and your parents and your cousins and the people you went to school with, that's your infrastructure. They're all capable of doing this. We met a 16-year-old kid who was into robotics when we were in Arizona last year, who's capable of putting together our flagship product, the Endurance Power Chair, which has a transmission, by the way, in 3 weeks. Right? We're making people wait 1 to 3 years for a piece of equipment that's shoddy and is pre-made and sitting in a warehouse. But a 16-year-old kid can make something that's seen as advanced and so great. And it's really simple. It's more simple to build and repair than an ATV. Even a go-kart is more complicated. So if we can do it, we should. And, I do like to remind people that the disability community or the disability demographic is the only demographic that any one of you can join at any moment. And there's a statistic on top of all of your heads.
Oh,
I
love math.
I mean, you can find statistics for how likely you are to have a hammer drop on your head as you step out the door. And of course, there's auto accidents, this, that, and the other thing. It happens.
There's also aging. A lot of people become disabled through aging. You hurt your hip, you hurt your legs. You're just not able to move around the way you used to. That's coming for a lot of us, and it's high time that I think we become advocates for a community that, you're right, we could join at any moment. One of the things that you brought up earlier is that you're moving out of libertarian politics and you're moving into taking action in the liberty space. That's one of the reasons why I do the Help Create live stream, is because I want to highlight people who are doing that. Because as much as I love being a candidate for office and running for office, it's really finding people who are making differences in their communities that really excite me, and that I want to share with as many people as possible. Because a lot of the times when I was on the campaign trail, I heard, well, if the government doesn't do it, who's going to do it? And I think a great thing to do is to highlight the people who are doing the damn thing. You are going to do it. I'm going to do it. We're all going to do it, right? Now, Building Fins Up said this. He commented this a little earlier, and you mentioned about how you're kind of in that catch-22 of not having income, but also the not being able to afford the healthcare. It's almost like there's a reason they don't want us to have disposable income. I don't know. I mean, it sounds, a little more likely the more you hear these stories about how folks are either doomed to either pay high prices for healthcare, or if they go get a job, they don't qualify for the benefits. And you'd think our government would know a lot about aging. Yes. Well, considering we're like the most Jurassic government, I think, certainly in my lifetime, and they're not getting any younger. And let me be real. A lot of members of Congress could, through the matter of aging, be joining the disabled community. There are disabled members of Congress who could be great advocates for these kinds of things if they weren't beholden to the two-party system. Shout out. Yeah.
The real issue there is that they're not beholden to the same systems we are. They have better health care. They're given more money. They have more resources. They don't have to see the human suffering. They don't have to live it. They don't know what it is to smell their own flesh rot. And a lot of us do.
That is visceral, and putting it right out there that like so many people are suffering from lack of from just the inadequacies of government, the bureaucratic nightmare of government, right? And even those who are working within it who want to do well, they're stuck in a system that just doesn't allow them to do that. And so why not change the systems to allow people to do what's best for folks who are in need? Welfare makes people poor by manufacturing artificial inflation. This is true. Hey, me and Thomas are libertarians. You're going to get us to agree on that one, right?
So there is one more initiative that we have that's going to address some of this.
Absolutely, didn't know about it.
As we do what we do and we reach out to various communities, we've traveled the entire country. I've seen almost every state now. we keep finding people with disabilities who happen to have some resources that have already built their own wheelchair or whatever device it is they needed. Problem is, they didn't think to market it. They didn't, you know why they didn't think to market it? I ran into a woman who spent $4 million to get a seat cushion approved through the systems for healthcare. A seat cushion, right? That's why they don't market it. These are not complex devices. It is not a rocket ship. It's essentially a go-kart that you can take indoors. That's it. Um, Anybody can build them. And Chase, you know what? I guarantee you, if you wanted to, you could build our design.
I mean, I'm gonna, you know, I will take that. I will say I will say you're absolutely right. Even though my mechanical nature is not the greatest, but if you're saying I can do it, Thomas, if you're saying me, Chase Oliver, my country bumpkin ass, can build one of these wheelchairs, then really anybody can do it. I'll be frank. Like, and if it is that simple, it should be something that we should be able to spread more and more around. And so, if you want to help spread these ideas, again, go to the MIF.org, the Mobility Independence Foundation, the MIF.org. I'm going to keep saying it over and over throughout the rest of this live stream. They're a great organization that is not just talking about liberty in action, but putting liberty in action. And so if you and I know libertarians who are out there probably watching this right now, you've been one of those people that says, well, why don't libertarians do anything? You just sit online and complain about stuff. Well, let me just be real. Not only does Thomas, as he said when he ran for office, he runs better than the government. He also runs better than most libertarians. He literally runs circles around a lot of libertarians when it comes to actually doing the damn thing, as opposed to just complaining about stuff. And so if you're one of those people that wants to support libertarians in the real world, doing real world things and making real world changes, this is an organization to support. And they have my full endorsement and should have the endorsement of anybody who loves the free market, anybody who loves innovation, open sourcing, helping people, really whatever avenue gets you excited about the MIF, there's plenty to be excited about. And so not making this into an infomercial, but I'm just really excited to have you on, especially at the beginning of Disability Pride Month and right before Independence Day, because independence is right in the name, man.
It's always been my favorite holiday for very obvious reasons. But I want to get back to what I was talking about for a second. What we're coming out with at the end of the year is a web portal. This will connect various nonprofits that are repairing wheelchairs with users who need repairs so they can do a geographical search. This will also connect those nonprofits' inventories so they can host their own internal inventory. When they have parts or whole wheelchairs or whatever it is that they need to get rid of, they can turn on this little feature that makes it public, and anybody else on that network can see it. And this is because I ran into a nonprofit in New Jersey that had a wheelchair that needed a very specific part. And I ran into a nonprofit in California that had that part, but not a wheelchair. And what happens is that after a certain time, usually about 6 months, they'll just throw those away because they're limited for space. So now if they get to know each other, know that they exist, do a simple search, much like when you're shopping on Amazon or eBay, then they can put that together. We're also going to drop our designs there, but it goes a little further. Like I said, we keep running into people with disabilities who come up with their own solutions and are struggling to make a business out of it. Well, they can list their products on that portal too. And now the guy who's making assistive devices for people who can't use their hands well to feed themselves with a 3D printer at a very low cost compared to anything you can buy on the market. Likewise, it usually isn't as good. Well, now he can market that on that website. Anybody can go look for it. We can actually inspire people like you saw him in the wheelchair in the trailer, Devin Hamilton. Devin Hamilton has full body CP. He has a severe speech impediment. I have to use somebody else to understand him, and I'm a disabilities advocate. But he's a mechanical engineer, graduated with a business. His business is something we're propping. Other people with disabilities have solved their own problems in so many different ways, and they can solve it for other people. It's time to start sharing that. And I think this portal is going to end up being something that hosts the conversations, because everybody with a disability is unique and different, just like regular people. Regular people. So what we need is not always cookie cutter. You can't just go into a wheelchair catalog and pick a wheelchair and say that's going to be fine. It's not. Everything's got to be very highly custom, and we all have our own unique needs. And when we can talk to each other and utilize engineers and become engineers, that's where we can solve these very individual problems that most people will, including myself, will never understand because, well, I mean, I'm not Joe over there, right? Joe's got a deformity in his arm and he needs a very specific tool, and I can't understand that unless I talk to Joe and an engineer, and then we 3D print it or whatever it is that gets it done.
It's awesome, man, and it's forming a community, which is always important. I think also a lot of folks who are disabled might feel alone. They might feel like they don't have advocates or other people they can communicate with. And you're right, express what they're going through and what their challenges are, and help find solutions to those challenges together. I think that's awesome, man. As Building Fins Up also agrees with me. He says that's awesome. Greetings from Tennessee. This is awesome. I love hearing everything you guys are talking about. Well, don't just hear about it, help get involved with it. If you can join and donate to the MIF, if you can help these folks in their cause, you're not just going to be hearing about the work they're doing, but you're going to be contributing to the work they're doing. Folks like Thomas, his team, and also all these amazing folks who's going to be helping connect with this web portal, which is a really cool innovation. And you guys just kind of keep innovating in this space, which is really great. And that just shows, again, how much better the private sector is. And private sector doesn't just mean for profit. It means nonprofit and charities as well. But just shows how much better the private sector is at innovating and addressing the needs of people than a big government program that just drowns us in red tape. And so, again, I'm going to throw it back up here again, the website, both for the film. It's screwed up again. We'll try to fix that again. But the MIF.org is the website for the Mobility Independence Foundation, and they have their film, thepowertomovefilm.com. The Power to Move is the name of the film. Check it out. It is a great documentary. Just won an award at Freedom Fest, which is one of the best liberty gatherings around the country. Of course, in addition to the website, where else can folks find you, connect with the Mobility Independence Foundation? I know I'm sure you have social media and other stuff out there.
So actually at the bottom of that website is all of our social media links. That's the best way I know how to direct people to social media. I would say if you want to, you can throw my email up on the screen. We're always looking for volunteers for all kinds of remote assistance. Everything from social media sharing to some writing, web development, whatever your skills are, offer them up.
Awesome. Let me grab that just real quick and make sure that's the one you sent me the trailer for, right? So at the MIF.org.
Yep.
All right. The MIF.org. So if you guys want to email Thomas and talk about the Mobility Independence Foundation. Oop, let me turn that off from being a scroll across the bottom thing. I think I screwed that up there. We don't want that to scroll. There we go. There you go, Thomas at the MIF.org. Email my friend Thomas here if you want to get more involved in the organization as opposed to just donating. But of course, they'll take your coin just like any other great organization doing great work. But if you want to add additional help or just get in touch with Thomas, if you're somebody in the disabled community that wants to learn more about what's going on, who feels alone and left out by what's going on, contact Thomas. He's a great guy. Let me just say, the first time I met you in person was in Orlando at the Libertarian Party National Convention. We had known each other online a little bit. In fact, I was just really excited to get to know you, get to meet you. And ever since that first meeting in 2020, I've always been happy to see you anytime our paths cross. And of course, I'm sure they will cross again in the future, sir. But just want to say thank you so much for coming on tonight. And, thank you very much for running the organization. Do you any last words you want to leave with the viewers and let them know about the organization yourself or anything else?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you and your viewers something similar to what I say at the end of the documentary. All I did was network with people who had the skills and the ability to help me solve my problem. And now I'm trying to spread that solution to as many people as possible. And you can do that too. Whatever your problem is, if it's wheelchairs or tractors or income, you can network with people, you can form teams, and you can get it done. Just solve the problem.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. I'm going to show off the website just one more time for folks who want to check it out. It's at the MIF.org. You can look at it right there. Beautiful website, by the way. Whoever designed your website, they did a great job. Again, you're a very professional organization that looks great and certainly worth the time and donations that folks might want to throw your way. Thank you so much for coming on, Thomas. I'm going to leave you for the rest of your night. Thank you so much. And you're welcome on the live stream anytime you want to come on and shoot the shit about the MIF or anything else. We'd love to hear updates in the future. But in the meantime, peace, love, and liberty to you, my friend.
Thank you, Chase. Thank you for having me.
All right, bye-bye. And moving right along on the live stream tonight, we are moving away from something that was a real inspirational thing, the Mobility Independence Foundation, the work that Thomas Queter and all the folks at the MIF are doing, to something that is a little more somber, you guys. Today, we actually lost a great messenger of liberty in Ed Clark. Rest in peace to Ed Clark, born in 1930, passed away today at the age of 95 years old. Actually, I want to get some quick comments here before we get into this. Thank you. This is an incredibly important project. Thank you, Chase and Thomas, for bringing this to attention. Very happy to find out about it. Thank you, Jason. The private sector in need for innovation will inevitably drive down such innovation become reality. Agreed, Connor. Thank you guys for coming on and learning more about what Thomas does. But and back to what I was transitioning to there, which is Ed Clark, who was our candidate for president in the Libertarian Party in 1980, garnered 1.1% of the vote, which is one of the best performances by a Libertarian candidate for president. Up until I won the nomination, actually, I believe he was the youngest Libertarian candidate for president. If I am not mistaken, maybe John Hospers might have been a little younger. I'm not exactly sure, but he was only in his 40s, Ed Clark, when he ran for president in 1980, and did a fantastic job of spreading the libertarian message and earning a lot of votes across the country. Again, 1.1%, which is up in the top 2 or 3 performances of libertarian candidates for president, whether you determine by votes or by percentage. He did really well in communicating our values. And as somebody who is a part of the limited brotherhood and sisterhood of libertarian candidates for president, I want to offer my condolences to the friends, family, and loved ones of Ed Clark. May his memory be eternal in your hearts and in the hearts of all of those who knew and loved him, who were inspired to libertarian action by him, and who are ready to really start spreading the message of liberty, free markets, non-interventionist foreign policy, these kinds of messages that have been really stalwart principles of the Libertarian Party since the years before Ed Clark was our nominee, but also in the enduring decades after he was our nominee for president. And so he was still coming to conventions up till a few years ago. I know many people in the Libertarian Party were inspired by Ed Clark to become candidates themselves, to get involved in the Libertarian Party. When I look back at our past candidates for president, it's really Ed Clark and Harry Brown that inspire me the most. And so I just want to say rest in peace to Ed Clark. And if you guys have not learned about him, I found a great YouTube video thanks to the Libertarian Party Historical Preservation Society. Shout out to them. It's a 13-minute Ed Clark infomercial from 1930. It's actually one of the better quality things about Ed, videos of Ed Clark that I did find. And so I figure what better way to honor his memory than to play this a little bit so we can see a little bit about the history of his campaign for president, how he ran his, and spread the message of liberty. So I'm going to share that right now. I'm going to mute myself, throw myself off stage, and we're just going to enjoy this together here. So let me throw that here, and mute myself, and here we go.
It was September 1979, and thousands of Americans from nearly every state in the nation had come to Los Angeles to attend the Libertarian Party's presidential nominating convention. The convention slogan, "Toward a Three-Party System." Those who attended had reason to believe that America is on the verge of accepting a major new political movement. Newsweek called it the politics of hope. The overwhelming choice of the delegates to carry the Libertarian banner was 49-year-old attorney Ed Clark.
Good morning.
In January, Clark faced the Washington Press Corps.
This today marks the opening of my national headquarters here in Washington, D.C., taking advantage of that occasion to come here to brief you on the status of my campaign. I think the 1980 Libertarian campaign will mark the beginning of a three-party United States. I think that the trends in American society and the strength and growth of the Libertarian Party will make this the most important third-party campaign in 50 years. The American public has lost faith in the two-party system. Younger voters have, and older voters too, because even those who consider themselves Republicans or Democrats are no longer as tied to the two-party system as they used to be. President Carter was elected on a program to end inflation. We now have at least 13% inflation. He was elected on a program to simplify and streamline the bureaucracy to make it more understandable. He has created two huge new departments. I don't think the bureaucracy is any more responsive today than it used to be. Ronald Reagan, the leading Republican contender, is for higher military spending, for an interventionist foreign policy that is likely to lead us to the brink of war. The bipartisan economic policy of the Republicans and Democrats, which has brought inflation and stagnation, which has stopped economic growth in the last 10 years so that poor people in our country will always be poor, has to be changed to a growth policy which can be produced by tax cuts. I think the American people are tired of being pushed to the brink of war. They're not going to sacrifice their children. Young people are not going to fight in interventionist wars, and they want a foreign policy that will produce peace and not war. For these reasons, because my approach to issues is going to be very different, I expect to be a major participant in the political campaign, and one of the high priorities of my campaign is to be included in the presidential debates and in all forums in which the Republican and Democratic candidates participate. I think 1980 is going to be the start of a three-party country, and it will be a campaign that will change the whole political landscape. Thank you.
Is it a correct statement that the underlying principle of your party is achieving the absolute minimum of government? And or if I'm wrong, what is it?
The principle of libertarians is...
A California newspaper wrote, reporters who are used to hearing carefully crafted lies were plainly delighted that Ed Clark was willing to stand before them and give straight answers to straight questions. Ed Clark is the kind of presidential candidate Americans are looking for, and he has the campaign organization to make a serious challenge in 1980.
Many people don't realize how well organized this campaign is. This is the first serious national political campaign in the past dozen years that is an alternative to the major two parties. The Clark for President campaign is organized in each of the 50 states and virtually every city in the country. And that organization, if money is there to support it, can create a three-party system. I'm convinced of that. The demographics of the country are such, with all the more younger voters than ever in history, all the non-voters who are looking for something new. If we can bring them into the polling booth, Ed Clark is going to establish a three-party America, and we've got the campaign staff and campaign organization to get the job done.
The Libertarians, the nation's fastest-growing political party. They're attracting a cross-section of Americans who are fed up with politics as usual and who increasingly are identifying government as the source of most of our international and domestic problems. Ed Clark, described by one delegate as our eminently reasonable radical, is building a new coalition that wants to cut back government across the board.
Mr. Chairman, great state of Alaska, the land of the individual and other endangered species, has 1 abstention, 7 votes for Bill Hunter, and 24 votes for Ed Clark. California, the home of the tax revolt. Casts 1 vote for none of the above, 1 vote for Larson, 22 votes for Hunter, and 94 votes for Ed Clark, the next President of the United States! I've heard a little noise here today. I take it maybe you people would like to see a 3-party America.
A major third-party campaign requires thousands of dedicated supporters.
The political activity for Clark is the only political activity that I know of on campus, because he's the only candidate who's talking about issues that concern students in a way that makes any sense. He's the only candidate who wouldn't try as president to get us into a nuclear war or risk it by interfering in the affairs of other countries. He's the only candidate who wouldn't risk our lives, students' lives in war, because he's against the military draft. He's the only candidate who's against interference in people's personal lifestyles on principle. And because of that, people like myself who don't have any money to give his campaign are volunteering to work for him instead.
Well, I've heard Ed talk about inflation. I heard him talk about the economy and the growth of the money supply and things like that. And I think he can do something about these problems. He's going to hopefully try and get on the debates, and I hope that he can, because if he does get on the debates, then the American people will have a chance to hear it and hear all the things that he knows about. He's very articulate, and I feel he would do a great job on the debates.
Would he win the election if he were on?
I believe he could win the election if he were on the debates.
Okay, in the past, I have not been politically involved because I have found that neither of the 2 existing parties ever addressed the one issue that I was most concerned with, and that was the maintenance of my rights as an individual to live my life the way that I choose. Ed Clark, the presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party, does guarantee that all rights of individuals will be protected, and as a result, I feel that mine will be guaranteed as well.
People ask me why I am supporting Ed Clark in this campaign, and I have looked at the other candidates and heard what they had to say, and I find that Ed Clark is the only one who consistently is interested in the free enterprise system, the only one who understands the basis of the free enterprise system, and why we have such inflation as we do at the present time. And Ed Clark stands on the issues in relation to business, in relation to inflation, in relation to the horrors of government regulation. He is the only one who consistently has what I feel are the answers for eliminating the problems that have been created. And I have given gladly the maximum amount to Ed Clark and his campaign.
Many people are contributing the legal maximum to Ed Clark's campaign, and others are contributing their time and effort. At the opening of his national headquarters in Washington, Clark met with 200 volunteers and staff workers to celebrate the beginning of what they believe will be a campaign of historic importance.
In 1980, we're going to create a 3-party political situation in the United States. We're going to have a campaign that is going to change the whole political landscape of this country. We're going to do it for many reasons. One is that despite the obstacles placed in front of us, we now have the organization, we now have the people to achieve this. The Republicans and the Democrats require us to gather hundreds of thousands of signatures to get on the ballot in all of the states. We're going to do that. We expect to be on the ballot in every state, or at least in 47 or 48. In addition, they have placed limits on contributions. They are financing the Republicans and the Democrats with tax dollars, with compulsory tax dollars. We're not going to do that. We're going to raise our money privately. We're going to have a major nationwide campaign. And by doing this, we're going to take advantage of the trends in American society that make the emergence of a large civil rights, non-interventionist foreign policy, free market party a real probability today. These trends include Vietnam, where the American people started to distrust their government and foreign policy, to turn against military adventurism. They include Watergate, where people came to understand that the quality of conduct of the President of the United States was less than that of the average citizen. And all of these trends came together in Proposition 13 in California, where the biggest state in the country voted by a margin of 2-1 to roll back government for a $6 billion tax cut. Now, this same thing is possible on the national level. We have issues that the other parties do not have. The other parties are going to push for inflation, more spending. They're not going to talk about spending cuts. They're going to talk about more spending. We are going to balance the budget and end inflation. With respect to taxes, we're going to come for across-the-board tax cuts, bigger tax cuts than any other party. With respect to foreign affairs, we're going to go for a non-interventionist foreign policy, a foreign policy that does not involve us in foreign wars. And the cuts that I'll be proposing with respect to military spending will be cuts that will revive the American economy, that will produce a better life here, and that will actually add to the safety of the United States by keeping us out of other countries. These things will tie together, I think, with our program for tax credits for education and civil rights to give us a unique position in American politics. We'll be the party of peace, we'll be the party of economic progress, and we will present a message that will help to build a new consensus in American society. How many votes we can get and how far we can go, however, depends on how much money we have, because we need money for advertising. Every new advertisement we can place on radio and TV and other media will mean more people we can reach, more votes, more minds that we can change. I ask you to help me in this great endeavor for freedom, because together, if we have the financial resources, we can create a better America.
A three-party America. In 1980, we can once and for all reject the lesser of two evils. This election, we have the candidate and the party that will restore America's heritage as a beacon of hope and liberty to all the peoples of the world.
All right, that was Ed Clark. May he rest in peace. Born in 1930, passed away today at the age of 95. He was the 1980 Libertarian nominee for President of the United States. I really enjoyed that little that little infomercial documentary. Here's some comments that folks were throwing on there. I can't believe how much of this still applied today. Correct. So much of the problems that we are facing today were still problems that were being faced in 1980, including the fact that we had a two-party system that was dead set on preventing a three-party America from coming to be. He truly seemed like he would have made a great president. I agree, compared to the choices of Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan, I think Ed Clark would have certainly been my choice if I had been there then. I wish third-party candidates would be included on debate stages, but those debates are an insult to the word debate and more like theatrical performances anyway. Well, I agree with you. I was happy to participate in the debates I was invited to, but you're right. The mainstream ones are just kind of press conferences of sound clips. Unfortunately, theatrics seem to win elections. That is unfortunate. Someone who actually answers reporters' questions, amazing. I know, right? We don't get that from politicians these days for the most part. We still need a three-party America. I agree. We do. We do. Amazing how relevant this is. I agreed. I would have voted for this guy without a second thought if I were able to vote or if I were alive. Connor also was not alive in 1980, but would have voted if had he been able to. Rest in peace, Mr. Clark. We'll do our best to carry the torch forward. And I agree. We will do our best to carry the torch forward. The torch of liberty is dimmed a little bit today because of Ed Clark's passing from this world. I wish, again, condolences to his friends, to his family, to his loved ones. I wish he had been elected president. Reagan had ads talking about cutting fat. Ed Clark called for cutting lean. I agree. Rest in peace, Ed Clark. Again, who at the time of his death was the oldest living former candidate for president for the Libertarian Party, coming from the youngest. May you rest in peace. May your memory be eternal in the hearts of those who know and loved you. And, personally, I just want to say thank you for providing inspiration from your 1980 campaign all the way to the 2024 campaign. Your voice and your message echo generations, and it will continue to do so in the future. So thank you, Ed Clark. That's it for the stream today, you guys. Again, if you want to check out more about what Thomas Queter and the Mobility Independence Foundation are up to, you can visit the MIF.org. If you want to see the film, you can go to thepowertomovefilm.com. That's the powertomovefilm.com if you want to check out the documentary. And of course, if you want to get in touch with Thomas, he did let us know. You can email at thomas@themif.org. He'll be happy to receive that email, and is a great guy. But to all of you who are watching this live stream, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. for the Help Create live stream, where we discuss news and views from the Liberty perspective, as well as talk to those who are making a difference in the world, whether it was those who are making a difference in the world of charity and nonprofit, those who are creating art and entertainment that spreads the message of liberty. We want to talk to you. We want to spread that message with you. So feel free to reach out to me. We will be booking guests and also doing some solo shows throughout the summer. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Oliver. It was good to see you on stream again, says Jason. Well, thank you, Jason. It was good to have you join us. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to this page, to this YouTube channel, to this X account. Make sure you're sharing the streams as much as possible, so not just you, but other people can enjoy that great interview we just did with Thomas, as well as that little mini documentary about Ed Clark, and of course, spread the message about Help Create. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming to the stream. Peace, love, and liberty to all of you. Have a good night.